I've come to the realisation that my approach to photography has been wrong for over a decade, and I only realised this recently. Not because my photos were terrible, but because I had a blinkered approach to what I thought my photography should be. And honestly, it's meant I've missed so many photo opportunities that were right in front of me. Over the last 18 months or so, something's changed. I've started to pay more attention to things that make up the landscape. So not just the big sweeping views, but the small details, the little subjects that live within the landscape. Those are things that I'm starting to focus on, starting to learn more about, and that has opened up a world of possibilities. So in today's video, I'm out in the van for an overnight excursion exploring the coast, and I want to just run through how shifting my mindset has helped me find better images, improve my photography and enjoy the process more. And hopefully it might give you a little bit of inspiration for the next time you head out with your own camera. And this week's video is sponsored by Elements Landscape Photography magazine. So we're at an amazing location for a bit of an overnight excursion in the van. So I'm here this evening and tomorrow morning. I'm walking out to a spot that I've photographed a few times at this location, but I've never really got great light. And it's very, very changeable this evening. Now I've been stuck in home for the last 3 days because the weather has been absolutely terrible. But this evening there's a little bit of a break. I'm hopeful that we might get a chance to walk some of the coastal path in the other direction tomorrow. Yeah, should be good. I'm really excited to see if we can get some nice images this evening. And the light is pretty dramatic out this way. I did manage to capture a nice little shot to start off with, but I really want to focus on these cliffs behind me because they're absolutely amazing. Got some fantastic geology in there. And of course, we'll be talking about a little bit of inspiration, if you will, that's got me really looking at the landscape in a different way. Yeah, lots to cover in this week's video, so I do hope you enjoy it and stick along for the ride. Right, let's find an image. So it's been fantastic over the last 20 minutes or so. We've had epic light, we've had rain showers, blustery winds, pretty much everything. And I'm now set up on the tripod and the light's quite flat right now, but I'm sure that's going to change in just a second. There's a big bank of cloud that's moving quite quickly out to the west. So yeah, just waiting it out. I've got the standard zoom lens on. I'm zoomed in to about 50mm right now, and I'm just waiting for the light to hit the cliff faces behind there and create a really minimalist composition with I guess a bit of layering to it as well. The cliff faces recede off into the distance, and yeah, I'm just waiting for that light to catch them, and hopefully yeah, a bit of drama and mood in the sky as well. And then if the light continues to be good, I might swap over, put the telephoto lens out on and try to pick out a few detailed shots in the cliff faces, but we really need good light for that to happen, so hopefully that will happen in the next sort of 30 minutes or so. So I think the wider shot there with the standard zoom lens was okay, but I'm really interested in the details in these rocks. So I've put the telephoto lens on and I'm zooming right in about 140mm, something like that. And the light is starting to get good now. So I'm just basically trying to shoot this as the light changes through the scene. Sometimes the light's on the background, sometimes on the foreground, sometimes it's on all of it. And I'm just trying to experiment to see which sort of works the best, really. And I guess that's really what landscape photography is all about, isn't it? Experimentation, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, seeing how the light interacts with the landscape and changes the composition. Absolutely fantastic. The light's great right now. Now, I've done long exposures down here before, which works really well, but in the wind that we have today is really not possible, so I'm not worrying too much about that. But what I have done is increase my ISO to 500 to make sure I'm getting a fast enough shutter speed. I need 1/100th of a second really to stop the motion blur, which is being caused by the wind hitting the side of the lens. Obviously, the bigger the lens is, the more the wind catches it. So yeah, we're just playing around, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and I'll continue shooting this as that light changes. Wow, this is amazing. I think this is an unexpected good start to this little trip, because I didn't hold my hopes up too high when we left because of the sideways rain that we've been having for the last few days. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's so good to get out. So that was a lot of fun down there, some moments of spectacular light. Hopefully I made the best of it. Time will tell when we get back to the edit. Now, I did manage to take another shot when I was down there. The light was fading, but I was working on a composition that I thought I might want to come back to, so I'll put that up for you now just to take a quick look at the composition itself. I think it might work, but I think the conditions were a little bit too dark for it. Now, speaking of photography motivation, I'd just like to talk about today's sponsor, which is Elements Landscape Photography magazine, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. For me, this really is one of the most inspiring photography magazines out there. Every issue I've read has landscape images that are just on another level. I always come away with new ideas, or I see something in a way that I'd never considered before. It really is inspirational. Now, since Outdoor Photographer is no longer around, I think Elements has become the benchmark. It comes in a PDF format, so you can view it on the big screen in its full glory, or take it with you on your phone when you're out and about. And what sets it apart is the incredible roster of photographers they have. There's a regular image processing column from Charles Kramer, an inspiring series by Rachel Talibart and Jim Beckier, plus work and interviews from legends like Michael Kenner, Hans Strand, Theo Bosbom, and many others. So it feels like you're learning directly from some of the best photographers in the field. On top of that, in December, they're releasing 4 special issues dedicated to image processing, black and white photography, printing and full photography. Everything is professionally edited as well, thoughtfully written and paired with stunning images. It really is a joy to read. So if you would like to take a look, you can use my code IAN15 for 15% off an annual subscription. I'll leave the link in the video description for you to take a look. And a big thanks again to Elements magazine for supporting the channel. So when I first started shooting landscapes, I had a very sort of blinkered approach, if you will. I didn't want to include any man-made subjects, people, wildlife. It was basically vistas and intimate vignettes of the landscape. In the early days, I didn't even shoot coastal locations either. It was very much mountains, countryside and woodland. And by the way, I still very much love shooting these things as well. But back then, I would just kind of wander by amazing photographic opportunities simply because they didn't adhere to what I thought I should be shooting as a landscape photographer. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with this approach. You know, specialising in a certain area can lead to great things. But for me, at least, I found that putting myself in a box was actually holding back my creativity. I think when I moved here to Wales 4 years ago, I definitely changed my approach. You know, suddenly I had the coast on my doorstep and it kind of snapped me out of that notion that things had to be a certain way. These days, I'm a lot more open-minded. I kind of welcome everything, which of course means I fail a lot more often. But by not playing it safe, I'm giving myself the freedom to learn. And learning, I found, helps to keep me motivated. Right, let's get some dinner on. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into the meatballs and pasta. Now I decided to cook over on this right hand side just so I could have the window open and vent the space a little bit. Obviously cooking pasta, it produces quite a lot of steam, doesn't it? So I think that worked quite well. But what I did forget to bring was my single burner stove, which would have been a lot better. Having it on the little camping stove there wasn't ideal. I nearly knocked the whole pan of meatballs over the side of my van door, which would have been an absolute catastrophe. So yeah, I'm glad we got through it okay, but I will remember to bring that next time. It doesn't feel very safe in here, just having it on top of the little camping stove. Anyway, I'm going to get stuck into this, and yeah, I think I'm just going to chill out in the van, read a bit of the Elements Photography magazine, and yeah, just chill out, get some inspiration for tomorrow, and really look forward to getting stuck into a hike tomorrow, maybe doing some intimate photography as well. And a few more thoughts as well on how I've changed my approach to landscape photography. Anyway, hopefully this is going to be tasty. So, good morning, and what an interesting morning it's been. So I was up at 6, came down here to see if I could improve on the composition. I was working on yesterday evening, but the light was very flat. It's only a glimmer of colour in the sky, and then it started raining. It rained for about 2 hours. In fact, it rained pretty much all night. But now things have fared up a little bit, and there's some interesting cloud and breaks as well. So I'm hopeful we can make a few images this morning before we get set off on our hike. So I think I'm just going to concentrate on this area just here, see if I can work on some patterns, abstract shots, some details, and maybe a shot incorporating these rocks in the foreground with the sea stacks there in the background as well. So lots I can work on over the next couple of hours, and then yeah, we'll get cracking with the hike, which I'm really looking forward to. So I've been working on a few intimate, detailed shots in this area. There's some lovely textures and patterns, and this particular shot here is of some lichens, and yeah, I really like the flow and the colours in the image. I've got the 70-300 lens on, and zoomed into about 130mm, something like that, and I've got the circular polarizer on the front as well to help take some of the reflections off of the lichens, because as the strands kind of reach out, they're catching the light, and yeah, the polarizer just helps to control that a little bit and also make the colours pop out. Some of these yellow lichens in here are very vibrant. I think they contrast really well against the dark rock as well. With shots like this, it's about getting balance and flow, so trying to create something that works in a harmonious way, I guess. So yeah, I think it works quite well. I've got the yellow positioned more on the left-hand side of the frame, and a bit of negative space down in the right-hand corner where we've got the lichens flowing through. I think this works quite well. And I've also found another little spot just down there with some really nice deep red colours. I'm going to take a shot of that as well. But you might be able to see I've got the camera set up on a really funny angle. What I'm trying to do is mirror the angle of the rock, because they're running diagonally. So I've tried to set up my camera so the rock face is pretty much straight on, so the front of the lens is square to it, if that makes sense. And that's helping with my depth of field, because at this focal length, yeah, depth of field is quite tricky. I think I'm at about, what am I, f13, which is a little bit further than I usually like to go on this lens. However, focus stacking something like this is always a little bit tricky, and if I can get it in one shot, I prefer to do that. It looks nice and detailed on the back of the LCD here, so I'm going to go with it and take this shot. Well, just after that last shot there, the heavens opened and I literally had to run back to the van for shelter. Now, I do actually enjoy shooting in the rain, but the cloud level has lowered somewhat and the visibility is pretty bad out there right now. In fact, it's been raining for about an hour or so. And the forecast is pretty much the same throughout the rest of the day, so I think the hike might have to wait for another day. But you know what, that is absolutely fine. It will just give me another reason to come back to this amazing location. And speaking of returning to a location multiple times, you know, I think this is one of the most powerful pieces of landscape photography advice that I've ever been given. I think to really appreciate and make the most out of a location, you need to give yourself time to see. You know, time to view the area in different light, different weather, or even a different approach. Now, going back to my thoughts on approaching landscape photography in a different way, you know, I think shooting scenes like I've been working on this morning, you know, those little intimate details of lichens wouldn't even entered my mind 10 years ago because they wouldn't have fitted into my preconceived idea of what I thought I should be shooting as a landscape photographer. But these days I actually enjoy those little detail shots more than I do the big wider scene. I think they tend to feel more personal to me. For example, the views I was shooting yesterday evening have been captured many times, but that little patch of lichens back there has probably been stood on more times than it's been looked at. So while I was tucked up in bed last night in my sleeping bag, all cosy, reading Elements magazine, I came across a wonderful quote from Peter Patterson, which I'll read out to you now because I think it sums up beautifully my thoughts about landscape photography, and he puts it way more eloquently than I ever could. So excuse the reading glasses. So here's what he says: be ready to slow down, to observe, to wait. Some of the most powerful photographs come from not chasing moments, but from allowing them to come to you. Just a little line, but I think that means so much, doesn't it? And yeah, such a amazing little sentence or two, but yeah, it really does sum up the way that I approach landscape photography and my thoughts going into this video. Anyway, on that note, if you enjoyed this week's video, please do give it a like because that helps these videos reach more people and it also helps our community to grow as well. The video up here will take you to another one that you might enjoy as well, and the link over here will take you to my free guidebook called Light in the Landscape. Anyway, take care and I hope to see you all again next week.